Hey everyone, welcome to Recap Blitz.
The movie opens in deep space, where a giant spaceship is traveling from Earth toward another planet to collect resources. Inside this ship, all the astronauts are asleep in their hibernation pods, while the ship moves automatically on autopilot. Everything seems calm until a sudden disaster strikes. A storm of meteors crashes into the ship, shaking it violently. The impact tears through the hull, damaging the systems badly, and the balance of the entire craft begins to collapse. The ship's artificial intelligence makes a desperate decision. It ejects all the hibernation pods to save the passengers. One by one, the pods shoot out and head toward a nearby unknown planet, preparing for emergency landings. In one of these pods, we meet Andy, a simple engineer. He is suddenly awakened by the chaos, confused and terrified, with no idea of what has happened. Before he can even gather his thoughts, the robotic arms of the pod automatically put a space suit on him, getting him ready for the landing. Andy looks out through the small window and sees dozens of pods falling alongside his, all heading straight toward the strange planet. Their speed is so high that flames surround them as they enter the atmosphere. Andy's pod shakes violently, but unlike many others, it survives the entry. Still, his pod crashes hard against a mountain and slams to the ground. Andy is knocked unconscious. When he finally opens his eyes, he realizes he is still alive, but no other pods are visible around him. Fear grows in his chest as he feels truly alone. His suit's AI, named Leonard, speaks to him, calmly instructing him to get out of the pod because the crash has damaged it. Andy tries to open the hatch, pulling and pushing with all his strength, but it refuses to unlock. After several failed attempts, he turns to the glass window and tries to break it. The glass, however, is extremely strong and almost impossible to shatter. Desperate, Andy checks his emergency kit to see if he can find some useful tools. To his frustration, many of the important items are missing. Even flare guns are gone. As an ordinary engineer, Andy had not been provided the special survival gear that other higher-ranked astronauts received. Still, Andy doesn't give up. He grabs a fire extinguisher from the kit and uses it with all his strength to smash the glass. Finally, cracks appear and he starts to push his way out. But at that very moment, the pod tips over and rolls to one side, scaring him into crawling back inside. In the struggle, his suit scrapes against the broken edge of the glass, ripping open a section. Oxygen begins to leak rapidly. Leonard immediately warns him of the danger. Andy reacts quickly, pulling out the repair spray from his kit and sealing the tear in his suit. The foam hardens and stops the leak, saving his life just in time. After this, Andy manages to squeeze himself out of the broken pod and step onto the planet's surface. The sight outside is bleak and empty. No humans, no pods, nothing. He turns his head and, far in the distance, spots the massive spaceship that once carried them. It is now spiraling down and crashing onto the planet's surface in flames. The sight makes his heart sink. Andy asks Leonard where they are. The AI answers coldly. This is an unknown planet, one that humans have no records or knowledge about. Hearing this, Andy feels even more lost. But then, something catches his attention. Far away, a flicker of light shines. Perhaps it is a sign of life, and he decides to head toward it. On his way, he passes the burning wreckage of the ship and finds another fallen pod. Inside, he sees no survivor, only emptiness. He searches it quickly, hoping to find oxygen tanks for survival. He does find one, but just as he is pulling it out, a dead body suddenly slides into view. The sight makes him jump back in horror, but he forces himself to continue. Sadly, he realizes the oxygen tank is broken, leaking completely empty. His hope fades. Worse still, he doesn't notice something strange. Deep claw marks scratched across the surface of the pod. Determined, Andy pushes forward until he finally reaches the shining lights. To his relief, it isn't an illusion. The lights were set up by another astronaut, Dwayne. Andy is overjoyed to meet another living human. And Dwayne, too, is happy to see someone alive after everything. Dwayne has already gathered equipment and has been working to send a message back to Earth. He tells Andy that he suspected something like this would happen. According to him, the company sent their mission through a shortcut route in order to save money, even though they knew this path was filled with heavy meteor fields. That greedy decision cost them the ship. Andy asks anxiously, "What do we do now?" Dwayne explains that there is no quick solution. Their distress message will take many months to reach Earth. Even if Earth sends the fastest rescue ship, it will take at least 1.5 to 2 years to reach this planet. Andy, horrified, asks how they can possibly survive for so long without food or water. Dwayne answers coldly but firmly. If we want to stay alive, we must do whatever it takes. Drink urine if necessary. Even eat the flesh of the dead if we must. The wrecked ship still has many things we can use to survive. The words disturb Andy deeply, but Dwayne motivates him, telling him not to give up hope. Slowly, Andy begins to gather some courage. But just as things start to feel less hopeless, disaster strikes again. While Andy is trying to fix a light connection with his foot, something unknown and fast comes from behind. In an instant, Dwayne is snatched away by the dark creature. Andy doesn't see what happened. He turns around only to find Dwayne gone, thinking maybe he just went off somewhere nearby. At the same time, the system finishes preparing the message to Earth. Andy wastes no time and sends it. Right then, Leonard warns him again. His oxygen level is dangerously low. If he doesn't find more soon, he will not survive. Andy remembers what Dwayne had told him, that the crashed ship still has supplies. He waits for Dwayne, but with oxygen running out, he cannot risk staying any longer. Before leaving, he takes Dwayne's flare gun for protection. With heavy steps and a desperate mind, Andy begins the journey toward the wrecked ship, trying to call out to any other survivors along the way. As Andy keeps walking toward the wrecked ship, he keeps trying to call other survivors, but no one answers. The silence eats him up, and in frustration he starts shouting. Suddenly, a faint voice comes through. Someone has responded. It is a young woman named Naomi. Her voice is weak, but desperate. She tells Andy that she's trapped inside her pod. Her leg is badly stuck, and she cannot move. Without help, she says she will never be able to get out. She pleads with Andy to come to her location. Andy immediately wants to go, but as soon as Naomi sends her coordinates, Leonard warns him against it. His oxygen level is already critically low. Going to Naomi would use up the little oxygen left, which means Andy might not make it back alive. Leonard insists that Andy should first reach the ship if he wants to save himself. Andy feels torn apart. With a heavy heart, he apologizes to Naomi, telling her that if he tries to save her now, he might not survive himself. But Naomi doesn't give up. She begs him again and reveals something important. She has an oxygen tank with her. If Andy can reach her, not only will she survive, but he will also have oxygen to live. Hearing this, Andy finally agrees and begins moving toward her location. By now, night has fallen on the strange planet. The darkness makes everything more terrifying. Andy keeps talking to Naomi as he walks, but suddenly he feels like something is near him, hiding in the shadows. Uneasy, he asks Leonard to run a scan, but Leonard admits he does not have that feature. He is an old model AI. Naomi, overhearing this, comments that the company was so cheap that they even gave them outdated AI systems just to save money. Andy tries to brush away the fear, telling himself it's only his imagination, but that feeling of being followed refuses to leave him. While walking, Andy notices strange, small holes in the ground. Curious, he follows their trail until he reaches a large crater filled with sticky webs, almost like a giant spider's nest. The sight freezes him in terror. He quickly steps back, telling Naomi that maybe some kind of spider-like alien is here. Naomi urgently tells him not to stop and to keep moving forward. Andy obeys, but soon the fear returns. This time he hears odd noises around him, strange clicking sounds as more webs appear across his path. His heart pounds faster. Suddenly, something darts across the path in front of him. Andy panics, shuts off his lights, and hides. At that moment, Naomi gasps. She tells Andy that her scanner is picking up movements. Several of their team members' trackers are coming straight toward him. She insists that the signals are close, right in front of him, but Andy sees nothing with his own eyes. Confused, he asks Leonard to link with those trackers. Once connected, Andy sees they are indeed within 100 meters of his location. But Naomi's voice suddenly turns sharp. She warns him to run immediately. Those were not living teammates. They were already dead, which meant something else was moving around with their trackers. Andy, however, is consumed by curiosity. He wants to see what this something really is. Against all warnings, he raises his flare gun and fires it into the air. The bright light explodes across the dark sky, and in that moment, Andy finally sees it. An alien creature, monstrous and terrifying. The sight chills his blood. This creature had killed their team and eaten their flesh. Andy's scream catches in his throat as he turns and runs for his life. The creature charges after him, fast and relentless. Andy stumbles and falls into a deep crack in a mountain, thinking he is safe. But the monster climbs above and strikes at him from the top. Somehow, Andy slips away, scrambling desperately down the slopes. In his wild escape, he tumbles off a cliff, but luckily, snow cushions his fall. He survives with only minor injuries. and for the first time, the creature loses track of him. Leonard quickly alerts him. His oxygen is leaking. Andy checks his suit and sees a fresh tear from the fall. He immediately sprays it shut, sealing the suit just in time. But now his repair spray is finished. He has no backup left. From now on, even the smallest tear could mean his death. Naomi asks what happened, and Andy breathlessly tells her everything about the alien attack. Just then, another voice suddenly joins them. It's Dwayne. His signal comes alive again. He is still fighting those creatures and begs Andy to come to him for help. Naomi supports this, urging Andy to go, because Dwayne's location is very close. But Andy refuses. He is shaking with fear after what he just saw. Naomi pushes harder, reminding Andy that Dwayne has oxygen tanks. If Andy helps him, he can get the air he desperately needs. At last, Andy agrees. But there's another problem. The fall has broken his GPS, and he cannot find the way. So Naomi begins guiding him step by step toward Dwayne's location. Andy runs, following her directions. When he arrives, he sees nothing. Dwayne is nowhere in sight. Then, suddenly, a flare shoots into the sky. Dwayne fired it to show his position. Relieved, Andy runs toward him. But in the very next second, his relief turns into horror. Out of the darkness, the creature leaps and attacks Dwayne. Andy freezes, then throws himself behind a nearby pod, shaking as he watches the alien tear Dwayne apart. His body is shredded before Andy's eyes. Andy trembles with fear, praying the creature doesn't notice him. But another one does. A second alien senses Andy's hiding spot and begins to move toward him. His heart beats so loudly he feels it will give him away. Then, out of nowhere, one of the pods suddenly powers on. Its lights blink brightly, drawing the creature's attention. It rushes to the pod, claws tearing into it, only to find nothing inside. When it turns back, Andy is gone. He had slipped away in time. We see Andy again, crouched inside another pod, holding his breath. Naomi was the one who had activated the other pod to distract the monsters and give Andy a chance to hide. As the team's supervisor, she had remote control over all pods. Now, she decides to activate another one to pull the creatures further away. But in a terrible mistake, she accidentally powers up the exact pod Andy is hiding inside. The pod lights begin to blink, glowing like a signal in the darkness. Andy's heart sinks. The creatures immediately turn and start heading toward him. Inside the pod with Andy is a corpse, its lifeless eyes staring straight at him. In the flickering light, the dead face almost looks alive, watching him. Fear crushes Andy's chest. He yells to Naomi, begging her to shut down the pod. But for some reason, the controls don't respond. The pod keeps glowing, and the creatures keep coming closer. Andy realizes, in that terrible moment, that his death may already be certain. Naomi suddenly turns on all the pods around them. The creatures get confused and start attacking the glowing pods. Andy uses this chance, gathers all his strength, and runs. But even then, the creatures see him and begin chasing. While running, Andy slips and falls to the ground. For a moment, it looks like there is no way to escape. But strangely, the creatures stop. They do not move forward. Instead, they turn around and leave. Andy finds this very odd. Then he notices something. He has run into a fog-covered area. In that fog, glowing fireflies float around. They look so beautiful that Andy feels peace for a moment. But suddenly, those fireflies turn red. In the next second, they attack him. Andy fights hard and somehow escapes, pushing himself forward. Naomi tells him that maybe those creatures are afraid of the fireflies. That is why they ran away. But Andy shakes his head. He says the creatures did not run from fireflies. They ran because of something else, something more dangerous. And Andy is right. Out of nowhere, the ground opens up and a giant creature rises. Its mouth opens wide, and in one move, it swallows Andy inside. The monster holds him so tightly that Andy cannot move. Naomi has no idea what is happening. She only hears Andy's screams. Within moments, Andy is completely inside the monster's mouth. Panic floods his chest. His heart races so fast that he starts to collapse. He is on the edge of a heart attack. Leonard acts quickly, giving him an electric shock. The shock is so powerful that it passes into the monster as well. The creature jerks back in pain and spits Andy out. Gasping on the ground, Andy realizes he has touched death and somehow returned alive. He stumbles into a cave to hide, but this cave belongs to the same fireflies. As soon as they see him, they turn red again and attack. Andy crawls desperately and manages to escape through the other side of the cave, finally leaving the fog behind. But Leonard warns him, only 3% oxygen is left. With so little air, Andy cannot reach Naomi. The ship is closer to his location. Leonard tells him to go to the ship. Even Naomi says the same, but Andy refuses. He decides he will save Naomi first, because the creatures are still near the pods and her life is in danger. He forces himself to run toward her. His oxygen finally runs out, but Andy pushes through the suffocation and at last reaches Naomi's pod. He is barely breathing, his chest feels heavy. Naomi quickly opens the pod and gives him a fresh oxygen tank. Andy breathes again, finally finding relief. Now he begins working to free Naomi's trapped leg, but her leg is so badly stuck that it doesn't move at all. After many tries, Andy checks Naomi's emergency kit. Unlike his own, it has all the proper tools. He picks one and uses it to finally free her leg. Together, they step out of the pod. Andy takes a flare gun and supplies with him. But Naomi's leg is still weak after being trapped for so long. She cannot walk properly. To help her, Andy ties a rod around her leg, giving it support. Naomi thanks him for saving her life. At that moment, both notice movement around them. The creatures have surrounded them again. The two of them start running toward the ship as fast as they can. The creatures chase, but Naomi slows down because of the pain. She orders her AI to inject medicine into her body to block the pain. Now she can run faster. Together, they reach the ship, but suddenly Naomi loses balance and falls. Andy quickly grabs her and pulls her up, and they run again. The creatures are very close now. To escape, Andy and Naomi dive into the wreckage of the crashed ship. But there, they get stuck, blocked by debris. The creatures surround them again. Naomi pulls out the flare gun and fires. The light does not scare the monster, but it makes it chase after the flare. Naomi gets an idea. She shoots more flares to distract the other creatures. Using the chance, they rush inside the ship. But by then, the creatures realize they have been tricked and start moving toward the ship again. Naomi struggles with the controls. The ship's door is taking too long to close. Andy panics as the monsters charge. Just in time, Naomi manages to shut the door. One creature gets stuck between, crushed to death as the door seals. Andy sees it and feels a strange relief, almost satisfaction. Both finally move deeper inside the ship. But the crash has badly damaged everything. They notice the ship's lights are still on, which means the backup generator is working. In a cargo hold, they find something that shocks them, a huge stock of oxygen, enough to last 10 years. Even the ship's air is stable, meaning they can remove their helmets and still breathe. Happiness fills their faces, but then they see blood on the floor. It looks like a body was dragged. Following the trail carefully, they come across human remains and strange webs. Fear grips them, and then, out of the shadows, a creature appears. Both immediately turn off their lights and hide. The monster moves forward, and to their horror, it spits out human bones and helmets from its stomach. Among them is Dwayne's helmet. Seeing this, Andy and Naomi freeze in shock. Their teammate had been eaten. The creature then leaves, but the terror in their hearts only grows stronger. Seeing the chance, Andy and Naomi start moving carefully out of the area. Suddenly, another creature drops down. Luckily, it does not notice them. They quietly turn and begin to run backward. But Andy makes a small mistake. A sound echoes, and a creature spots them. In a panic, Andy grabs Naomi and they rush into an airlock, locking the gate behind them. The creature starts smashing the gate, trying to get in. Andy frantically tries to open the cargo bay gate on the other side to escape. Naomi warns him that they're trapped. The button to open the gate is outside, right where the creature is. With the creature almost breaking the airlock, there is nothing they can do. They sit, bracing for death. Andy, in despair, begins to think about his family. He tells Naomi that his family died in a car accident, and he blames himself because he was driving. Naomi comforts him, saying he should stop blaming himself. She tells him that if she is alive today, it is because he is a good person. Both become emotional and hug, saying a quiet goodbye, preparing for the worst. Just as the creature breaks the airlock, Naomi notices the group of fireflies stuck to Andy's suit. They must have clung to him when he escaped from the cave. She throws them onto the creature. The fireflies swarm and attack DIST. Taking the chance, Andy and Naomi rush out and press the cargo bay button, opening the gate. They try to move forward, but the height makes it difficult. Andy attempts to close the gate before the creature can follow, but it doesn't respond. Both fall down with the creature looming over them. Then Andy spots his fallen repair spray. Thinking quickly, he throws it into the creature's mouth, sticking it shut. Using this opportunity, they run, but the creature recovers and follows again. In one desperate moment, both fall. Naomi lures the creature toward her, telling Andy to find a way to kill it. Andy notices intact pods nearby. An idea sparks. he plans to crash a pod directly onto the creature. He tells Naomi, who is still running for her life, to turn off all the lights in the cargo bay. In darkness, the creature cannot see clearly. The monster charges at Naomi, who freezes in fear, but then sees a broken box above her and quickly hides inside. Meanwhile, Andy starts preparing the pod for launch. He discovers the pod won't start due to a power cut. Leonard informs him it may take 15 minutes to reboot, but Andy doesn't have that much time. Leonard suggests using his suit's battery to power the pod, but Andy must sit inside the pod and connect to it. A dangerous move that could cost him his life. Bravely, he agrees. He climbs inside and links his suit to the pod, ready to launch. Outside, Naomi uses her lights to draw the creature toward her, keeping it distracted. Andy watches his chance and launches the pod. As he does, a memory flashes, the car accident that killed his family. The pod crashes directly onto the creature, killing it. Naomi falls back, exhausted, but then sees Andy inside the pod. She rushes to him. For a moment, she thinks he is dead. Tears stream down her face. Then Andy opens his eyes. He was only unconscious. Relief floods Naomi, and they embrace. The next morning arrives. Andy reminds Naomi that he has already sent a message to Earth using the machine Dwayne had built. Rescue will take years to arrive, but until then, they must survive here together. With the rising sun and hope renewed, the camera pans over the damaged ship and the alien planet, closing the movie on this note of survival, courage, and friendship.
Join next time for another story that makes you think and feel. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.